So I've done this journey a few times now, and with a few different people. And what they've told me is that unless you actually book yourself a motorway lesson after you pass your driving test, you don't actually get taught how to drive on the motorway properly. It's just something you kind of have to pick up and learn. You can read it in the books about what you should do and how you need to go, but actually, the actual practicalities of driving on a motorway is just something you have to kind of pick up and learn with other people. So I thought I'd take the chance just to go through some of the basics about what we do for motorway driving, both as just general public and then what we look for as a blue light responder. General disclaimer though, obviously I'm not an advanced driving instructor, I'm not a driving instructor by any means. All I'm going to do is just give you some hints and tips about what I've picked up over my years of driving. So I'd be really curious to have any input or feedback from driving instructors out there as well, or Ashley or anyone else. So yeah, if I say anything wrong, please do let me know. But otherwise, this is just my take on what I do when I'm motorway driving. So the first thing to talk about is obviously joining the motorway. So when we get down here onto this slip road, yeah, so we need to talk about joining the motorway. So the first thing to remember when joining a motorway, both as first responders and just generally, it's up to me to match the speed of the motorway traffic. It's not up to the traffic on the motorway to allow me in. I have to match the speed and then feed in where there's a gap. So I have to bring myself up to speed and make sure that there's a gap for me to feed into. So just here, I've brought myself up to speed, I can now bring myself into there. What I wouldn't expect is, as I come down the slip road, for the people in lane 1 to have to adjust their speed or gap to let me in. If they can pull out to the second lane, anticipating that there's people joining, just like the truck's done, here, people can then join. But it may be a case that actually those people in lane 1 can't move out, and so they shouldn't have to. So it's worth remembering that when you join the motorway, it's up to me as the joiner to match the speed and find a gap to feed into. Similarly, when I'm first responding as well, and I noticed this, I corrected this myself on one of these other ones, you turn the siren off because you're joining the motorway and people's visibility are a little bit weak. It can sometimes catch them by surprise that you join the motorway. So again, you turn your sirens off, match the speed, find a gap, then reinstigate your sirens and accelerate as you pull forward. But otherwise, it's up to the joiner to match the gap on the motorway. So then some other just general rules, not that you'd believe it sometimes when you're driving around motorways, but the left lane is where you should be sitting. Lane 1 on a motorway is your general driving along, ticking along quite happily lane. And then the other lanes are for overtaking. So on here we've got 4 lanes, 2, 3 and 4 are for overtaking. At the moment I'm doing only like 50 miles an hour, so I've got plenty of time and I can go around this truck. So as it goes, the Audi behind me isn't approaching, so I'm going to indicate, good observation, check my blind spot, pull into lane 2, and I can pick up a little bit of speed to go around this truck. But you'll notice I've quickly matched the speed of everyone else in kind of lane 3 anyway. If I want to maintain this speed, I need to stay out here or I need to move in. But as you can see, like lane 1 for example, if I move back into lane 1, if I want to sustain this speed, I could sit here quite happily. Because I'm not overtaking anyone, I'm not making any more progress, I could sit here in lane 1. And this is where you want to be. Obviously if you want to go a bit faster, you're going to have to move out and go round. So I'm now approaching this white van and I don't want to undertake them because that's not clever. So I'm just going to take some speed off. And if I want to go round them, I'm going to have to wait now because this Audi's approaching a bit quick. But as you can see, this white van, for example, sitting in lane 2, not overtaking, not approaching the truck, not going past there. There's no real reason for that van to be sat in lane 2. They could move over to lane 1. The Audi could have come past and I could have then gone past as well. But at the moment, they're just sitting there, which is never clever. But there's nothing on this lane, so they could have stayed here. That's what they've done. So now I've brought myself back up to speed, past the truck, good check over, I can move back over into lane 1. And so this other thing you have to keep an eye on as well is the signs above the motorway. Obviously they'll indicate whether a lane is going to go off to like the 41 like this one is going to. And you'll notice the markings have changed on that lane. So that's to show you that that one is actually going to go a slip road off to the 41 and is no longer going to become part of the M25. And it's only going to be these 3. Sometimes you'll see a slip road will go off and there's a lane 1 or carrier on the motorway, but in this instance, for example, the inside markings changed. They went to a lot smaller lines, they went doubles, which means it's actually going to branch off and lane 1 no longer becomes, which is why that truck moved out. So we're going to go around this one again, indicate blind spot, and move out into lane 2. now approaching this white van again. So I'm actually going to go around it again. Because I'm still under the speed limit. Go around again and go round. So again, you're meant to be sitting in the left-hand lane, so there's no reason why that van shouldn't be over one more lane, because they're not going round anyone. And all they've done is make me have to go round twice, because look, I can come over again. And yet for some reason they're still sitting there, which is why that VW has now undertaken that van, because they're sitting there in the way, not going round anyone. And so that VW has undertaken using lane 1, and the BMW I think is going to try and do something similar. And that's why, as you end up getting people doing these moves, they get frustrated and they'll undertake people, because people will be sitting in lanes 2, 3, 4, not doing anything. So look, Beamer's gotten a little bit impatient and decided that he's going to undertake the Land Rover and undertake the Tesla, the Audi, because people are sitting out there not moving in and out. And out we go. Beamer's deciding that he's going to undertake again. I'm actually going to go around. So I do want the M1 north at some point soon, but I've got a mile or two to figure out and get myself over. So I'm actually going to clear some of this traffic, and then I'm going to work my way over to lane 1 to move over to go on the M1. So I've got time, so I'm spacing it. So in front of this truck, there's a nice big gap in front of this truck. I've got time between now and the junction to move over, so I can complete my manoeuvre. I can let him know that I'm going to come over. I can signal. Double check that I've got enough space now between me and the truck, and move myself over into there. Obviously now I want to move over again. I've got to be careful now because of other people undertaking the truck that are already on the slip road, but I can move over into this gap. And there we are. So this truck, I'm assuming, is staying there, and that's the problem with assumptions, you never know what's going to happen. But now I'm on the slip road, you can see that the line hatching has changed. So this is no longer going to become part of the M25. This one is actually going to branch off to the M1. So that's what you want to be looking for, as to whether you think it's going to carry on or it's going to stay there. You see where people are merging already, so, oh great. So I was just going to say I'll have to go behind, but the grey van has done a nice thing and moved out to allow people to join. So plenty of space in, and there we are, into lane 1. So now I'm approaching that van, and he hasn't moved over to lane 1 again, so I'm actually going to pull him behind. There's nothing in lanes 2 and 3, so I'm actually going to bring myself up to speed and go straight out to lane 3 to be able to go around him. What I didn't want to do is undertake at this stage, there's just no need, so that's fine. So I brought myself up to speed. I've now matched the speed of the cars in front. I'm not overtaking, so I can bring myself back into lane 2. I am going faster than the truck and those cars, so I'm going to stay in lane 2 because I'm making progress against them. See, now is probably a good time to talk about braking distances, because I'm doing 65 on the motorway. It's congestion. We've had the congestion stay in lane signs, so I'm just moving along and I'm flowing with traffic. I'm trying to leave a good braking distance between me and the car in front, but inevitably you leave a big gap and someone will pull into it like that. So there's braking distances and then there's reality. So it's a case of just leaving a gap that is comfortable for yourself that you can brake. The van behind me, however, has decided that they don't like braking distances, and more than a couple of times now they're sitting right up my backside. There's a certain amount of pressure you think, right now I have to move over, but in a congested motorway like this, I'll move over when it's safe and when I feel I need to do so, because I'm still overtaking people, I've still got a comfortable distance, but we're still moving. What you don't want to do is feel pressure to do something you don't want to do. Equally, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're having to make them pressure you. So for example, I've got a gap coming up now after I get half past this BMW. And speed has increased, I'm now doing 70, so it's comfortable for me to now move over if I need to. But I need to make sure the gap is there again. So look, just before I've moved in, that VW has now moved into the space I was going to, so it's now not safe for me to move in. So I'm going to carry on past. The van has backed off slightly, but you still want to make sure you've got a decent enough gap. But don't ever feel pressured to do something because someone else is there, but equally, you don't want it to be dangerous. So you just keep plodding along until a gap opens up for me to move into. Bearing in mind I'm now doing 70, I'm now doing the speed limit. There's no need for me to have to hurry over, but I'm also not going to overtake anyone for a while after this, so I can move when I need to.
I think the man behind wants to climb into my boot.
No, exactly. Don't feel intimidated or bullied by them. So, because
It's just, I'm getting nervous now, Chris.
so there's one more junction I'm going to be coming off. So I'm going to start to work my way back over to the left-hand side. So I'm going to pass the coach and move over to lane 3 anyway. Now I could move into lane 2, but I'm not holding anyone up, and I know I'm going to be going past this B&Q truck in a bit, so I'm going to stay in 3. But I do want to move over at some point soon, but it's quite just on the left-hand side. So I'm going to get past these trucks and then start to pick the space, a gap where I can start to feed in. Right, so there's quite a nice gap. But hopefully you found some of this interesting. Please do leave any comments below as to see if you want to talk about anything else.